Welcome everyone to this last day at Microsoft Ignite. Last day, you made it. Thank you for coming, spending your time here in San Francisco with us. My name is Niels. I work in our Enterprise Partner Solutions team. I'm responsible for the ERP partner strategy. In today's session, we're going to talk about ERP transformation with AI. So what is ERP transformation with AI? It's our solution play. A solution play is how we go to market. From left to right, our positioning, messaging, our targeting, our sales and technical enablement, and so on. It's also about our programs and investments that can help accelerate the customer journey with you and customer and us, so they will finally onboard our platform. You'll hear about all that, and then you're also going to hear about the Agentic ERP market, the insights and best practices we have around our first-party agent. You're going to hear about our third-party agent enablement that we have done in an incubation program with some of the partners, and what you can do. And then you're actually going to hear that in a real practice experience in a fireside chat with two partners that we've got. And then we're going to close out with a call to action. If we have time, we will do Q&A. I'm not really sure about that. As a disclaimer, when I say ERP, I talk about ERP. It's all our products on the Dynamics 365 ERP, except for Business Central. If you want to hear about Business Central, you should step out and listen to the recording from yesterday. You will get the recording of this and the slides up at the Ignite portal. You're welcome to take pictures, but do know that you're also going to get that. With that, I would like to hand it over to my colleague, Samir.
Thank you, Niels, and a warm welcome from my side on a Friday morning. I was thinking I'd probably speak to an empty room. I'm very excited. It's Friday, it's Ignite, and I'm also excited that I'm going home. So, let's hear about it. So, what I want to really talk about is kind of summarizing probably a lot of things that you've heard over the week. Frontier firm is something that Microsoft's been talking about for a while, and probably there was a lot of frontier firm discussion that happened through Ignite. In context of ERP, where typically we consider customers to be laggards, right? Nobody really associates ERP with innovation. But when you think about the entirety of agents and AI, ERP is actually the prime ground, because the amount of inefficiencies and dirt that we carry inside ERP is kind of prime to be exploited with the agents. So when you think of what it takes to become a frontier firm, whether it is about enriching employee experiences, how do you enrich or reinvent your external engagements with customers, suppliers, reshaping of business processes, this is the whole premise, the holy grail of agents, I would say. And last but not least, there'll be a category of customers who will wait for a perfect platform and a perfect everything, but there'll be a lot who really want to bend the edge of, bend the curve of innovation, like, the front runners. Those are the firms which will actively become the frontier firms. Those are the ones that we want to address today with our agentic capabilities in the ERP. And when you think about, the other aspect of this entire frontier firm, or the future of work, as we would say, and the future is pretty much right here. I would assume a lot of you use Copilot or some form of assistive AI from other vendors. So our entire belief is that every employee is going to have a Copilot. But beyond that, every business process will be agentic. It's going to be a journey. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be all done by Microsoft. It's going to be done in partnership with all of you, with customers. But the subtle difference is, right, like when you think about this whole Copilot versus agents, when you think about ERP users who are typically very overloaded, not very happy with the screens or the process or the performance. Never heard a ERP user be happy. Now, the thing is, in that state, we also don't want them to play 20 questions, right? So therefore, when you think about the employee, they'll have the copilots, they can ask questions, get insights, but when you are in the flow of work in terms of a business process, this is where the difference is autonomous actions. This is what agents would do. They would complete tasks for you. They'd probably prompt you and ask you a simple question, not 20 times. Get your insights, get guidance from you. So that's the entire paradigm shift that is happening. The other thing that this picture also encapsulates very well, if you think about apps and phones, so probably 2007, etc., an iPhone was not really a phone, right? I mean, it eventually has evolved to be the carrier of apps. None of us buy any smartphone for the ability to make a phone call. It's everything else other than phone calls. And kind of the shape that the entire 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗶cie Copilot is also taking, that this is where eventually most of the agents will dock, right? And people will not have to go to 10 different places to work with these agents in context of ERP, CRM, any kind of business application. And that's going to be a lot of work till we get there, but that's the principal idea. This is what this picture sort of tries to say, that how do you take that complexity of engaging with agents away? Now, with that, the other important thing is, everybody has their own interpretation of what an agent is, what AI is. There's obviously a lot of noise and a lot of smoke and mirror in the market. Everybody is suddenly agentic. We'll see a lot of us becoming agentic as well. The point I'm trying to make here is that, we have shipped about, give or take, 6 agents in product, in market. These are production-ready public preview. A lot of partners and customers have asked, when will this GA? We don't know. And there's a good reason. We're basically saying that these agents, from a contractual perspective, allow you to get started for productive use today, and therefore you pay for it. You get all the support and everything else like it's a GA product from Microsoft. And I also say that, while there is a lot of push to create new agents, everybody has AI initiatives in their company and so on and so forth, these out-of-box agents, especially for customers of Dynamics, is an amazing way to get started. Because this kind of, really limits you to very specific areas where you can show value to customers, and potentially also, if you're a partner, to your own people on how these things work. The good news is that they improve every week, because I know when we launched, the whole experience of installing and deploying was very challenging, including for us. We've come a long way from there. So my whole point is, this is a great way to get started for your customers, for yourselves. So try out these agents, and there's going to be more coming, right? But we are not going to go and create a slew of agents up front. It is going to happen in partnership with our partners and customers. And that's the piece that I'll talk about in terms of what we are doing around there. So Jared's going to be speaking about that as well. But the key thing is that it's ERP. People still need to run business. So it's not going to be just agents. If you think about our investments, we obviously continue to mature our portfolio by adding capabilities that are either not doing well or need more capabilities. There are very focused agentic investments, which means that we are going after specific agents. All of them have a long storyline. It's not just this tiny little activity. If you think about account reconciliation agent, it really wants to go towards this space of continuous close. Similarly, if you think about supplier communication agent, ultimately we want the entire procurement function to be agentic. But that's going to be a journey. And it's going to be a very, very painful and hard journey as well. So, but each of these agents have a corridor on what we want to achieve with this. I'm going to be spending some time talking about the agent platform enablement, because remember, if you are going to build agents, it's not going to be the life cycle, the way we build, what we need to do, all of that needs to change, right? So that's a massive area of investment. And last but not least, we always continue to break through in newer industries. So we are doing quite a number of cross-industry investments as well, because our customers operate in industries, and therefore we need to give them something for that. So we look at the stack, and probably if you have attended one or the other ERP session at Ignite, you would have seen this. There is a shift in experience, right? If you think about how you interact with an agent, it's not going to be how you interact with our UIs, right? The other thing is also ERPs are typically not known for beautiful UIs. The next generation of workers who are coming in have very less tolerance for ugly UIs. So we're kind of, solving two problems with one. I talked about the entire agent foundation. This is where, leveraging Copilot Studio, building our MCP servers, all of the foundational work that needs to happen, which allows things like extensibility, lifecycle management, ability for us to build agents, for you to build agents, for our customers to build agents. All of that investment goes there. But last but not least, the important thing, and this is again a journey, one of the things that happens to the ERP or to all of our modules is they kind of become headless, right? Because if the agent is where we are delegating most of the action or where the work happens, you kind of create these headless business services and expose them through the MCP servers. And that is the beauty of what we are doing. If you think about what we are, we talked about the public preview of the ERP MCP server, but in reality, we are really creating more and more of them. So you'd argue, why do we need 3 and maybe in a couple of months 4 or 5? There's a reason for this. If you think about agents, you're not just doing one thing with the agent. There could be scenarios where you want to work directly with the tables. This is where you probably use the Dataverse MCP server. But the way we are exposing actions in an ERP, if you think of a typical user of an ERP, they interact with the screens, the UIs, they do a whole bunch of capabilities. Our whole premise is that all of these actions that people take on a UI, they should be able to just do it using, by us exposing these actions via the MCP server so that the agents can do it. And then last but not least, this is my favorite, the whole analytics MCP, which is really on top of our analytics store. Today's analytics is very static. People go with dashboards that exist. If they need some other insights, either it's yet another project or army of data analysts, we're going to change that, because through the MCP server for analytics, you can get into this whole realm of exploratory analytics where people can really work and ask questions with their data. It'll be a bit like 20 questions, but it's worth it, right? So we went, I think the first time we talked about the MCP server, that was in build in May. Early stage, we talked about 13 actions being exposed through that. Today, the real number is 615,000, but 500,000 sounds better. So, it's 500,000 plus actions that we've exposed. Pretty much everything that a user can do today on the UIs can be done by agents. And this is a very, very powerful construct if you want to build agents leveraging our MCP server. Because remember, this whole direct API calls, et cetera, is never going to scale. And this is that layer of abstraction which is going to allow participation of everyone in creating these agents. And so I don't take this lightly. This has been a lot of work. But this is a very compelling way of bringing the entire community towards building agents. And this is a standard protocol. This is something that the entire Microsoft is snapping to. We also have examples of Windows MCP server working with our agents. So I'm super excited about this one. And I think to underline this point that I was making, a lot of people will ask, what is the roadmap of agents from Microsoft? And I would say, we are going to build some, but we are not going to be the ones that are going to be building most of it. we are going to be investing in enabling others to build more agents. Because we can ship a bunch out of box, but ultimately, our partners who are closer to customers or have a more nuanced view of the industry, et cetera, they're going to be spending time. And of course, customers will eventually build a lot more agents. So yes, it's going to be an agentic world. We need to make sure that there is sufficient ability to monitor, observe. You heard about Agent 365 as well. So all of that will come from Microsoft, but not just the agents. So I hope I have excited you enough about the art of building and the possibilities that are coming out from us. I think Niels is now going to talk more real numbers and the opportunity as it comes to ERP market. So thank you, Niels, for having me here.
Thank you so much, Samir. So how big is this market? Well, according to Gartner Group, the cloud ERP market is going to grow to by 17.5% up to about $90 billion. And then second, mid-market companies are going to significantly invest here. You can see the number, 55% increase. And there are basically three factors that drives this growth. First, AI is the top reason for shifting because customers need to be on a cloud ERP platform and moving away from their on-prem platform. Second, they demand a lot more innovation in the ERP packages today, which is then driving the third topic, which is a very competitive ERP vendor market. Vendors are expanding into new segments, new business areas, and then of course also investing in AI, which then fuels this product innovation, and then also the vendor market becomes highly competitive. So what does this mean to you? We've already seen how traditional ERP development with customization and extensions has been reduced and taken over by low-code and no-code. And as Samir said, this is also going to change with agents and how we develop and customize on our platform there. And MCP will just accelerate the shift into this agentic-centric ERP development. So what does that mean to you in terms of business opportunity and your monetization? We did a study with Forrester who interviewed some of you. And by conducting those interviews, Forrester estimates still a 1 to 10 license to service ratio. But more importantly, AI helps improve your partner's gross margin, increase the win rate, and also you can obtain additional service revenue because of the infusion of AI. So how do we grow and go to market together? What do we want you to do? Basically, our solution play targeting logic is fairly simple. We're going to target ERP white space, which means that we are going to target and replace and surround the ERP incumbent who's in the account. Typically on-prem, and we're going to help those customers then move to the cloud with our AI ERP platform. Now, tier 1, we are replacing a lot in the SME and C segment, but also in the lower part of enterprise, we're actually seeing a lot of replacements and more than we actually expected. In the two-tier scenario, we basically see 4 use cases play out where we can go to market very well. The first scenario from the top left, that's where we typically can deploy Dynamics 365 ERP in subsidiaries or subdivisions, and then the customer can keep their ERP in their HQ, move to Azure on that. Scenario 2 is where we can standardize new acquisitions on Dynamics 365 to onboard them fairly quickly and then avoid, the customer moving their on-prem or legacy product into those units. Scenario 3 is where we can stand up an ERP fairly fast. It can be in weeks or a couple of months, but not lengthy. And that typically occurs when we have management buyouts or spin-offs or also acquisitions. And scenario 4 is where we deploy Dynamics 365 as a best of breed, either in a supply chain scenario, which is industry or vertical, but it can also be with finance to drive a targeted transformation motion. So what do we want you to do? Basically 5 things. I work in 3s or 5s. So here we have 5. First of all, we want you to build an agentic ERP practice. So please onboard that, and as Samir said, work with us on our first party, extend those, and then start to build your third party industry, AI and agents. Then take those and bring those to market. Put them up on Marketplace and make sure that we are aware and customers are aware. And then you can take that approach and make sure that you align that with the 4 2-tier scenarios that we have. That enables us to really understand how you go to market, and we can quickly land that with our sellers. And if you take that approach and you spin a deployment framework around it so you also can deploy fast, then we can win fast and we can deploy fast. And if you have that, then you should come to me, send me an email, and then we can discuss the Scale Fast program that I'm currently running. We also want you to become a fast-track portfolio partner, so your solution architects can work together with our solution architects on your entire deployment portfolio. And then last but not least, share your customer stories with us so we can enrich that and we can broadcast that out to the market. I'm running a little bit out of time, so I'm just going to show you a couple of slides here. When we say that we think we have a really good platform, that was also documented by Samir. It's not only us saying it, we also have received really good feedback from the analysts. Again, being a leader in the Gartner Group Magic Quadrant, both for service-centric and also for product-centric ERP. But it's not only there, it's also with IDC across their 3 reports where we are positioned as a leader. So I'll not drain this slide. You have it in the presentation, but I'm going to talk a little bit about some critical impact points here. We have our solution play assets up on Partner Hub. I hope you have that bookmarked because that's the most important place for downloading everything. We released our campaign in a box in October. That's where you can download those assets. You can put in your industry capabilities on top of that and run that campaign. And then to accelerate our opportunities, we offer basically 3 funding programs: ERP Envisioning, ERP Accelerate, and then Copilot plus Power. I'm not going to go into details about that. You can read that up on Partner Hub. We also pay either on CSP or OSA. OSA is for ENMCAE, and the payout that we have there is actually second to none compared to what we are paying out on our other products. And then I will end with Deployment Success Program. It's called now DSP Start. It's kind of similar to Fast Track. If the customer purchase unified, those people, highly skilled engineers, will work together with you and your customer on the side to de-risk deployment projects. So these are friends, not enemies, in terms of getting customer success together. Quickly on our enablement on how you become Frontier. We'll continue to invest in our core, which is core ERP, and the various functions and solutions we have there. You can see the different 4 pillars that we have. But more importantly, we are also going to invest more in low-code and definitely agentic ERP enablement for you, including also MCP server. So make sure that you are bookmarking and clicking on the skilling link and also the Partner Hub to stay informed on when are those courses available, digital or digital in person that you need to book, or it could also be actually in-person events. Now, I'm the lead of the Partner of the Year for Finance and Supply Chain, so it brings me great pleasure to announce the winners, but also the runner-ups of those 2 categories. So in the finance category, the winner is Hitachi Solutions. They have a solid market reputation in our core industries. Thank you. I would think Hitachi is in the room. Maybe you want to stand up? Round of applause. They have built a solid market reputation in our core industries, and they have modernized finance with Dynamics 365, and they have delivered rapid ERP deployments in some of their customers as well. One example was a manufacturing company where that was a spin-off, and they actually deployed Dynamics 365 ERP, Power Platform, and also agents in 6 months. And there's another example where you also deployed Dynamics 365 𝗬𝗲𝗍. It's an official case study where one of the subsidiaries running JD Edwards was then replaced by Dynamics 365 ERP. So thank you very much. On the supply chain category, that's 𝗬𝗍𝗂. Do we have 𝗬𝗬𝗂 in the room? Okay, maybe a round of applause for 𝗬𝗬𝗂. I'm sure they're going to watch the recording. They have quickly established themselves as a trusted player in the pharma and life sciences industry with a purpose-built, compliance-ready supply chain solution tailored to those specific and unique needs of that market. In their nomination, they had won several cases against SAP, and they have also replaced SAP in 27 countries with their pharma solution. So thank you very much to the winners, and thank you so much also to the runner-ups. And with that, I would like to hand over the presentation to Jared.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Niels. So I want to talk about the third-party agent onboarding experience. Actually, I want to first comment on one of the things Samir said. He mentioned that his favorite MCP server is the analytics MCP server. Mine happens to be the other MCP server. Offense has been taken. Samir, I challenge you to a duel. To be taken up at another time. But following up on the third-party experience, we know that Microsoft is not going to be able to build all of the agentic experiences that are needed for customers to be taken up. And as Samir called out, we are dependent on the partner community to build out those additional agents that are needed for customers to take up. And we talk about the bending the curve of innovation. And really what this needs, what we're going to talk about over the next few minutes is what partners and customers as Microsoft, what we need to think about is changing our mindset around ERP. One of my favorite examples is an old example, but I was just talking about it with our friends from Australia here. So I'll use it as an example of bending the curve of innovation is Netflix. Netflix was long ago, when they started up, if you remember, they used to send out DVDs by email. And this was a brand new way of thinking about using technology to change the business of entertainment. They went to Blockbuster. There's a scenario that is called out by Clayton Christensen, the author of Innovator's Dilemma. He talks about it in detail, that they went to Blockbuster, sat in their boardroom and said, we will sell Netflix to you for $50 million. And Blockbuster just couldn't get their head around it because they looked at this business that has lower margins because you're sending out DVDs by email, and they did the financial analysis and said, why would we take this lower margin business? It's going to cannibalize our other business. And they said no. They laughed Netflix out of the boardroom because they couldn't wrap their mind around it. And from a financial perspective, made perfect sense. They looked at it, they did the financials, said no, we can't do that. But they didn't change their mindset around the new technology that was going to be taking over the industry. I just looked it up. Netflix is now worth $446 billion, and Blockbuster doesn't exist because they passed up on that $50 million opportunity. And so taking that and thinking about it from this perspective, we need to change our mindset around ERP. And one of the things that we've been looking at with these agentic experiences, we've been thinking about it from a perspective of very deterministic business processes. And we need to change that mindset and think about what is it that ERP or that LLMs and agents are really good at. So I want to revisit this slide that Samir talked about. When we have this agentic ERP platform, we have a foundation that is primarily powered by Copilot Studio, but really it's the backing of a large language model. And large language models are having that intelligent orchestration over our business processes that do, in fact, continue to use deterministic business processes. That's still very important in our ERP systems to make sure that we are following the law. We're calculating all of our calculations correctly. There's business logic that does need to happen deterministically. But the shift around that is that there are very stochastic business processes that need some kind of reasoning on top of it. That you don't have the same answer every time, that it needs to look at context and consider what needs to happen next. And large language models are really good at that. So when we think about it from a perspective of large language models and being able to attach that to a business process, what we want to talk about here over the next few minutes are what are large language models really good at? How can we take that as Microsoft and a partner community and start building agentic experiences that really enhance the overall AI experience for F&O? So when we talk about the ERP Agent Foundation, we have the LLMs. They're connecting to business processes, and we want to make sure that we are not removing deterministic code from the processes where it's needed. But on top of that, we want to think about the things that LLMs are really good at. They're really good at language. A large language model is good at understanding language. So let's talk about automation. These are 4 things that large language models, that I want to call out, LLMs are really good at. First one is automation. And this is one, so actually one example. I had a conversation with a partner about a year ago, and we were talking about building agentic experiences for AI, and they paused and said, Jared, everything that can be automated has been automated. And I had to pause, say, well, no. And that's the kind of the shift in mindset that we need. He's thinking about it from a very deterministic process, that if it's deterministic, we can write some code and it's already been done. LLMs unlock experiences for automation that you can now do things that couldn't be done before. So automation by itself is very important, but actually let's jump to the next slide. When we talk about automation, we're not talking about just building Power Automate flows. If the agent you're building is something that you could just take an LLM out of it and build a Power Automate flow, that's not what we're targeting. Because we can automate these experiences, but in conjunction with other things that LLMs are really good at, we can start to automate things and build out agentic experiences that couldn't be done before. So shifting the mindset. So this example that we have here, along with other powerful LLM capabilities, we're taking a natural language command, it's interpreting that intent, it calls into an agent, does some reasoning, and brings it back. So we're taking into consideration other things that LLMs are good at to automate business processes that couldn't be automated before. The next one is language. As suggested by the name, a large language model is really good at understanding language. So a large language model, it's trained over basically the entire internet. They fed the internet through it, trained it, and it becomes a probabilistic model to predict the next word that's going to happen. And it keeps getting better and better and better. And this becomes one of the things that we need to consider as we're building out these agentic experiences, understanding that models will continue to improve. If we look back to GPT-1, it was a kind of a fun toy, a chat experience. Now that we're getting into these more advanced models with GPT-5 and the Anthropic models, Sonnet 4.5, they're really good at understanding, keep getting better. It's actually one of the lessons that's called out in the bitter lesson by Rich Sutton. If you've read that important paper on AI, talks about how a lot of times when we're thinking about our AI experiences, we're constraining ourselves to the current functionality of the existing models. When we need to be thinking that, like with Moore's law, computation is going to continue to advance, our models are going to continue to advance with them, and we need to consider the AI experiences that will be available in the near future because they are advancing so quickly. And that's true with language. So these models are getting really good at the probabilistic predicting the next word. It tokenizes a few words in there, predicts the next one, and we come out with some really good understanding about what language can do. So our first-party agent that highlights this capability is the supplier communication agent. That we have this agent that receives an email, understands the language, and then can understand the intent of it and then respond. And we want to continue to build out those types of experiences that understand language and can communicate in natural language with humans. It becomes part of that intent. The next one is unstructured data. This is somewhat related to the other one, but these are the types of scenarios that we can think about with agents because we can take unstructured data, convert it to structured data, and have that be part of our business automation. So being able to take a PDF of a sales order, or looking at a requirement specification for a product, or being able to look at a resume and your human resources flows, and being able to understand that unstructured data from a document that's fed into the system, have an LLM read over that, reason over that, and make that part of your business process to be inserted into the system and turned into structured data. And then finally, reasoning. Reasoning needs to be a very important part of your automation processes. That we can take take processes that used to be something that a human had to sit at the computer, take time to look at a document, do some human reasoning over that document, and then click some buttons based on the decisions that they have made. So if you attended our theater session yesterday, one of the examples that we looked at was supplier selection for a requisition. I submit a requisition. And someone needs to pick the supplier, and that used to be something that a human would have to look at and based on context make a decision. Because there is no if then else rule that can be written that says the best supplier for this context is the right rule, because it's very stochastic reasoning. And LLMs can do that stochastic reasoning. You give it some guidance on the things that it should look at, things that it should consider, and then the LLM is able to do that reasoning over that business process and then automate things that couldn't be done before. So this was kind of a really quick run through of things that we should be thinking about, but the point here is that we need to change the mindset of the things that we're looking at for our agentic experiences. We're not just trying to create Power Automate flows that happen to have an LLM attached to them. We can bend the curve of innovation by taking advantage of the full power of these large language models to change the way that we do business. So if you're looking at building out these agentic experiences, please continue to do so, but let's continue the conversation because it's going to continue to get better and better. With that, I will hand it back to Niels.
Thank you, Jared, for providing your insights and best experiences on building third-party agents. Now, I want to invite two partners who is also going to provide their insights on what they have done working with us in building their third-party agents. So please welcome on the stage Ben from RSM and Jim from HSO. And maybe you just do a short intro on yourselves before we kick it off.
So I'm Ben Vollmer. I lead up our Power Factory offering, which is our low-code, no-code offering at RSM. And RSM is one of the largest tax audit and consultancy firms in the world.
Yep, Jim Bretschneider. I'm responsible for growth and innovation here at HSO in the US. We are, depending on how you're counting, the biggest or the second biggest dynamics consulting firm in the world.
So what kind of GTM tools and processes have you infused in your company, and what kind of benefits have you seen, Ben?
So I think the first thing, we're in Dynamics 365 at the center of our business. So D365 Sales runs our entire CRM application stack. So Sales Copilot, of course, is critical to that. The other thing we've done is we've taken and added a number of additional agents on top of it. We've also then enriched our data with external technographic data, so what other customers are running. And we looked at that with our win-loss data. So we can look at an industry and what somebody else is running in their current technology stack and predict whether we're going to win or lose that deal preemptively. So the whole thing we're doing is we're building propensity models so that our sales teams know where to target and where to sell better and faster and cheaper.
Great efficiency there in the sales process. How about you, Jim?
Yeah, so ERP is really hard to buy, right? So Gartner's have done studies that there are 17 people on the buying side, and it's really the consulting firm that shows value first is the consulting firm that's going to win, right? So that has been our mantra around this. So account planning and find uniqueness that we can provide to a customer is something we have done in our account planning agent. And that has really helped us to really have a conversation faster, as opposed to go home and do 2 days of research. Another part is RFP responses. We used to always either disqualify ourselves out of RFPs because you only win 1 out of 8, or if we were asking for an extension because it was so labor intensive, right? So our RFP agent is making us win more deals and do this with less effort. And then lastly, which is really customer-centric, is we have built a consulting body so we can take what we've learned in the sales cycle and quickly turn that into an SOW and project artifacts.
It's great learnings. Yeah. And if we then think about the third-party agents that you have developed, what have you developed and what's been the customer's reaction to that, Jim?
Yeah. So the most famous one is the Payflow agent that has been featured here and at built. So we co-created this with Jared's team here, and we've really done this in 3 iterations. The first one was actually what we now laugh a little bit about. There was like a Power Automate version with some LLMs on both ends to read the emails and respond to it. But basically what it does, it's taking some of these trivial exercises where a vendor is asking you, why did I not get paid? And you can then automatically have an agent to respond. You already got paid and this was the date and the check. you didn't get paid because you didn't deliver, or it is going to be, it is due for the next pay run here. So we did this with the MCP server that is now in preview, and we have also made an industry version of this where, for professional services, where you pay when, so you have this pay when paid scenario here. The other one that is, I'm cutting a couple of my examples, but this is really cool. So we have done a data migration agent. So we had what prompted us to do this, we had a customer with 400 legal entities. And if we had to do this, and they were all different chart of accounts and so on, and if we had to do this in a traditional way, we'll do 1 month per. So that is 32 years, right? And with our agent, we cut this down to from 1 month to 4 hours. So, and the 4 hours is just to review the work. The actual 90-something% of the migration is done by the agent, so the 4 hours is just to review the work.
Impressive efficiency gains there. How about you, Ben? What kind of agents have you been doing, and what's been the customer's reaction?
Well, we go to market by industry and by vertical, and so our agents are primarily by industry and vertical. We've got 6 in the marketplace at App Source. We have 2 more that are pending Microsoft approval. So can you jiggle that handle a little bit for Ms. Niels? And then we have about 12 more in backlog right now. So we'll have about 20 of them on board. And so our customers have been very, very excited about what we're bringing to them from an industry perspective, because it addresses their exact specific needs in a way that a traditional agent or traditional broader LLM won't do it.
Great, fantastic. Industry approach.
Industry approach.
Works, yeah. Then how is the agent go-to-market different when we think about the critical moments for showing the value to the customer, getting them to buy, deploy, and then drive usage? Ben, if you want to take the lead there.
AI is a forward motion we should lead with. Like, leading with AI brings Microsoft's USP and our USP forward. The challenge you have with that is customers are still, if you're US here, they're from Missouri. They want to see the results, from a show me state. So you do a lot more proving of things working up front. So we found for most of the AI standalone projects we do, or agent standalone projects, we can't sell a multiple $100,000 or multi-million-dollar project up front. We have to lead with a $10, $20, $30, $50, $60,000 offering up front to collect it and prove to them this actually works, and then the bigger project comes after that. So it's a very different go-to-market motion than you're selling a traditional business application.
Thank you for that. Jim?
Yeah, it is kind of the same talk track here. So when we're looking at this, traditional ERP have been this big bang you are implementing, and what you need to move into is kind of pearls on a string, right? It's like you're creating much shorter time to value, and there are a couple of reasons for this. First of all, who doesn't want to, it's really hard to implement ERP, and you spend 9 months to a year or longer, and you get no value in this process here. If you can turn this into smaller chunks and time to value, it is incredible. And yeah, so we had an example where this was just before Code Assist tools came out, and we've estimated 10,000 hours for an application for a customer. And in the middle of this, our developers were realizing all these tools here and say, what are we going to do? Are we going to go back to the customer and tell them this is going to be half price, or are we going to build something more exciting for them? So it's not only about time to value. The problem is, if you do a year-long project, the solution is going to look much different than you envision, because AI years are like dog years. It's just going so much faster, right?
And then 30 seconds each on the last question here. If there's some best practice, knowing what you know now, that you can pass on to partners, what would that be, Jim?
Yeah, so it is, the first part is be your own best reference customer. If you are not embedding this in everything you do, your people are not going to do this with their customers when they're out talking to customers. And the other part is there is this hidden value. If you think that people are just following your AI strategy and so on, they're not. They're out there experimenting themselves. So utilize that, promote that. Obviously you need some governance here, but promote that. And then back to just deliver some, experiment faster, fail fast.
I think AI sometimes scares ERP consultants because it's an unknown. It's more of a technical skill than a functional skill. my advice to start off with is learn the out-of-the-box agents. Those 6 agents that Jared showed earlier, go learn them. Like, no, be a master of those 6 agents, be a master of Copilot for service, be a master of Copilot for sales. Start your journey there, and don't wait till what happens next week. Like, go get those things done right now, today, and then expand upon it as your knowledge grows.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Ben. A round of applause for our 2 partners here. So we are coming to the conclusion of this session. You will get the slides and you can access the recording as well. I don't want to drain this slide, maybe just 3 critical items here. Build your AI practice. I think you've heard that a lot here today and throughout Ignite. We do want you to achieve specializations to become more recognized and increase our co-sell capabilities, and then leverage our investments that can help us accelerate the customer's opportunity to a close. And with that, I want to thank you deeply for being here with us at Ignite this last day. Again, you made it, so thank you very much. Thank you for your partnership.